Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live, and I'm Cyril Stober. The Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2022 was finally signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari on Friday, the 25th of February, after thorough legislative exercise. Now, it's now an act, and major areas of priority involving the use of electronic devices in transmitting election results and other critical issues have continued to open new debates on the future of the nation's electoral process. Tonight, NTA Tuesday Live will set the tone for more enlightenment on the new act with those who should know. But before this conversation begins, let's get to see this report put together by Mie Ogidi.
Okay, apparently there is no second.
We must not tie the parties to only one way of doing primaries.
Those against any? The nays have it.
Sometimes it was the journey of a lonely voice, buried by the heat of the overriding power of the gravel. In another check, the survival of the loudest voice.
And thank you for protecting me against all right.
In all of this, it was a journey to no destination twice. Once in the 8th Assembly, another at the 9th Assembly. It was a long walk to success for the legislature and the executive in giving the electoral system a decent look through the nurturing of a new Electoral Act. Despite all odds, the end literally justifies the means. There is a new law delivered on 25 February 2022, the Electoral Act 2022, containing 154 clauses. The mood of the nation transits from agitation and near protest to praises.
To congratulate Mr. President for having that golden opportunity to write his name in gold.
The key areas in the Act excite many. Clause 3 creates a fund for INEC where finances needed for general elections will be provided latest a year to the period. Clause 22 deals with offences of buying and selling of votes and voters' cards, which attracts 500,000 naira or 2 years imprisonment or both. Clause 35 deals with the issue on the death of a candidate. If that occurs, for instance, in the case of Audu of the 2015 Kogi governorship election, INEC can reschedule the election within 21 days and the running mate can continue with the election and nominate a new running mate. Clause 41 mandates INEC on e-voting, while Clause 47 permits e-accreditation of voters. In this case, the beavers has come to stay. Clause 50 gives INEC the legal backing for electronic transmission of election results. Clause 54 takes care of the needs of the virtually impaired and incapacitated voters. Clause 65 states that INEC can within 7 days review results declared under duress, while Clause 88 reviews upwards funds for campaign by political parties. For instance, presidential campaign is now 5 billion naira, governorship 1 billion, senatorial 100 million naira, House of Representatives 70 million naira, State Assembly 30 million naira, while donations now maximum of 50 million naira. But Mr. President obviously not comfortable with Clause 84, 10 and 12, where political appointees not eligible as voting delegates except they resign prior to the party convention or congress.
This provision has introduced blanket restriction and disqualification to serving political office holders, of which they are constitutionally accorded protection.
The Act may go for a checkup in the National Assembly soon.
The timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections.
INEC, like a man waiting for the completion of the hours to move in, barely 24 hours after the signing of the Electoral Act, announced the timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections. Presidential and National Assembly, February 25, and Governorship and State Houses of Assembly, 11th March 2023. Conduct of party primaries, 4th of April to 3rd of June 2022. while commencement of campaigns for Presidential and National Assembly 20th September and that of Governorship and State Houses of Assembly 12th of October.
Any political party that fails to comply with the timelines provided for in the timetable and schedule of activities, particularly with respect to the conduct of party primaries and the nomination of candidates, will not be expected to nominate candidates to the Commission for Election. Is there any extra cost? Not at this point. There is no extra cost attached to the implementation of the activities provided for by the Electoral Act 2022. And we have no doubt the capacity is there for us to transmit results from all the polling units. Thank you.
INEC seems prepared. A new Electoral Act with no extra financial burden, but extra strength is needed by the security agencies to ensure decency as the political arena may soon go tough. Mie Ogede, NTA News.
Well, that report by Mie Ogede is part of the tone setting for our discussions tonight, and it does set the tone for the discussion. We'll start off by introducing our guests to you. We'd like to welcome to this program Senator Kabir Gaya. He is the chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC. Senator, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Nigerians. Happy to be here with you.
Right. We're also joined tonight by Dr. Kayode Ajulo, who's a legal practitioner. Good to see you. Let me also introduce tonight Ezenwa Wagu, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reform. Ezenwa, it's good to see you. All right. Also joining us tonight is Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner in charge of information and voter education. He joins us via Zoom. Thanks for being with us tonight on NTA Tuesday Live.
Thank you so much.
All right. It promises to be an interesting night, and at the appropriate time, I'm sure that you would want to be part of the discussion in the studio. We'll acquaint you with the procedure at that time. But let's start off by looking at the signing of that bill into law by the President and matters arising from the new act. Let's turn to the chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, Senator Kabir Gaya. There were so many speculations in the media, back and forth. The president will sign, he will not sign. We will go forward, we will not go forward. Finally, it happened. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I thank Almighty God for giving us the opportunity and even the life to be here with you and go through all the hurdles of Electoral Act, repealing and enacting another law, completely, entirely new law that covers all the process of election. And it wasn't easy. We went through for 2 years on the program, and finally when we came to the bill with the president objected and returned the bill back to the Senate, which we did some amendments and still returned to the president, hoping that the president would sign it. And finally the president signed the bill, yet with other observations that some few amendments should be done. And we believe the law process is a process whereby you need to carry all the stakeholders on board so that the law is meant for the people, and the law should be used to serve the interests of Nigerians and have free, fair, and credible election. So all those processes we went through to have a very good Electoral Act or law that will be able to guide in the process of having a credible election. And then that the stakeholders are all being involved on their views and what they wanted to be done. And I believe we tried to carry along most of the Nigerian views. You remember through the process we had to go when the bill was tabled on the floor of the Senate, the committee, it was first our committee, and our committee arranged to do public hearings where opinions of Nigerians were brought or were raised or memorandum were submitted. And we went through all those processes. So many advice. Some even said that we should not vote on Saturday. We should do voting because it's a religious day for other group of people. We should fix another date. But some said, no, if we go for Friday, some Muslims are saying Friday is their day for prayer. And when we say Sunday, Christians say, well, that is their day. So we said, let's leave it at the Saturday so the election can hold on Saturday. So many other people have raised points. Some are controversial. Some are saying that any woman who is married with a child or who is married should be matured and can be eligible to vote. And there are all those kind of arguments, So, but at the end of the day, we came with what we have, and which I believe Nigerians were happy. We talk of electronic voting, some are denying
Okay,
it.
so these are, well, for you, what are those, critical changes, differences with what we had before?
Well, we talk of electronic voting, which was not part of it before, and that it was tried in some few states, and it proved positive. And we talk of electronic card, card reader, which was not previously in the system, but it was tried, and that helps to reduce voting over voting, because in some cases you find that during when we don't have the card reader, when we do voting in a place and there's supposed to be 500 people per polling units, and only 100 people turn up, but because of corruption and rigging of elections, so people can see the whole 500 were there. But with the card reader, if only 100 people were there, the card reader will only report 100 people, and all the results will be based on that number 100. So that also helps. And then this electronic transmission, which we all argued, we are here in the Senate. The Senate said no, they don't agree with electronic transmission. But when the majority of Nigerians are of the view of transmitting electronically, we finally withdrew to go with the views of Nigerians, and then we had electronic transfer and electronic voting. So these are new things. Another thing which you also introduce is that most of the time some party just filled in a candidate who is not even qualified, but this time we have now put a caveat that even if party forward a candidate that's not qualified, the party will also be punished, or the party will also be charged to court, and the penalty which the party must pay for those reasons. So a lot of things, about 100 plus changes we made for the Electoral Act, which I believe we are proud to say that yes, we have achieved something good for the country.
Okay, let's go over to Dr. Ajulo now and put the same question to you. The president signed. What did you feel at that point?
Constitutional democracy at work, particularly, Section 4 of the Constitution talked about the rules of the legislator in making law, and the president has his own role in endorsing that the bill being made by the legislator is signed, endorsed, and made into law. And this particular Electoral Act has been, we've seen the up and down. It has taken almost 4 or 5 times, in which we'll be having this big tank from the legislator down to the presidency before it was finally endorsed just this last week. And that one really showed that our democracy is working, our people are working, irrespective of how long, how far it is. We will certainly get there, though it is not Euro. And this, we must say, this bill is, to start with, by the time we look at the long title, it's like an act to not to amend. It's totally setting aside the one we have initially and bringing a new electoral regime, that is the regulation. And the salient point, there are so many, and I think kudos must be given to the National Assembly, the civil society, all these stakeholders for ensuring that at least this, I must say, this is an attempt to ensure that we get a fair and credible election. And if one must discuss some of the salient points at the new innovation, we can see now when it comes to pre-election matter, it is basically now resides with the Federal High Court, initially before you have the State High Court and the FCT High Court, in which they have jurisdiction, but now most of the jurisdiction have been taken away from them. And like what the distinguished senator mentioned about what the internet, who can go to court, particularly to complain about nomination of candidates. Now, it has to be those that partake in that election. It is not a free for all where maybe a candidate A presented a fake certificate or did not comply with the rules and the requirement. It is not that anybody can go as we used to see. It must be those that is one of those that participates in that election. And even if at the end of the day, the question we should ask is this: what will be his gain? Not that maybe if he should succeed, he will not be the one that will take over. That means that the party has already forfeited that slot, that election, that result, because it is being seen that it is the party that always feud candidate that win the election, not the particular candidate. And many other things we can see. Kudos to INEC, and by now I don't think that we have these issues of where the INEC will complain that the issue of logistics, because the act makes it so clear that within 365 days there must be funding must be ready for any election. I remember in 2015 I was a Nigerian electoral observer in United Kingdom, and one of the electoral officers told me that this election we're having, the preparation has been for about 16 years ago. I was shocked, and I said, my country, even 3 days to election, we're still running around to make preparation for election. But with this act, at least we are sure that within a year to the election, the funding, the preparation will be ready, and many other things. Now this act has already criminalized some issues, some things that it is expected that the staffs of INEC, that is INEC staff, must sit up and must act and behave with candor and rightfully, because if they should do otherwise, they will be penalized in some of the other things and many other things. Are we going to talk about?
INEC Commissioner is with us on this program tonight, but let's go back to Ezenwa Wagu. And Ezenwa, I'm sure you were one of those who pushed for the president to sign this bill into law. Now that it has been signed into law, you see this document as some would even want to call it revolutionary in terms of the process of run our elections, and that this would enhance transparency. What are your thoughts?
Most of
Speak to the INEC National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, who joins us via Zoom, Festus Okoye. Well, INEC was waiting, like all other Nigerians and other institutions, for this to become law. And as soon as it became law, you swung into action. Tell us, from the point of the election management body, what are your thoughts on this new law?
Let me congratulate the chairman of the senior committee on INEC and the chairperson of the House Committee on Electoral Matters on the role they played in relation to the coming into force of this particular act. We participated as a commission in all the public hearings that we organized. We also participated in the technical committee sessions, and I can attest to the fact that the chairman of the Senior Committee on INEC and the chairperson of the House Committee on Electoral Matters worked tirelessly day and night in making sure that this particular bill comes to this particular act comes to fruition. So I want to thank them for their commitment and for their zeal in making sure that this particular act sees the light of day. Now, as an electoral management body, we were also anxious to see that this particular act comes into being. This is because we made very, very robust and concrete suggestions to the National Assembly relating to the direction the electoral process should be moving and the direction the electoral process should go. As you know, we came out from the 2019 general election, and so many matters went to the various courts, to the election petitions tribunals, to the Court of Appeal, and to the Supreme Court. And some of these courts did make suggestions on how to improve the electoral legal regime, to make it more robust and also to make it slightly more compact. We also drew from the experiences we have from the field in managing elections, in making some of our suggestions. And so many of those suggestions have now gone into the new electoral legal framework that will be at play in relation to the 2023 general elections and other elections going forward. So as an electoral management body, we were also waiting. We couldn't pretend that we did not know about some of the provisions in the Act. So what we did was to work proactively in making sure that we had our acts ready, that we had a draft of our timetable and schedule of activities based on the new electoral, this new Act, and also based on the old one, so that if something happens and we are not able to get the new Act, we can fall back on the Electoral Act 2010 as amended. But with the passage of with the signing into law of the new one, we quickly released the timetable and schedule of activities for the conduct of the 2023 general elections. And I'm sure that the political parties are aware that this timetable was coming. It was the political parties that are represented in the Senate and in the House of Representatives that were parties to some of the timelines embedded in the new Act. So I don't think that anything took them by surprise. They were expecting our timetable, and they knew that based on the new electoral legal framework, that political parties are obligated constitutionally and legally to submit the list and personal particulars of their nominated candidates 180 days to the conduct of election. And so I think that the new timetable we have released accords with their thinking, accords with their expectation, and they've been expecting it. And we're excited, and we are moving forward with preparations for both the off-season, off-cycle governorship elections and the 2023 general election.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's return to Ezenwa now. Hopefully, we've sorted out that glitch. And then let's find out your thoughts with the signing of the bill into law. Ezenwa Wagu.
Very much. I think basically that all the panelists have already done all the thinking that needs to be done. And what needs now to happen is to situate clearly that work has now started in reality to engage this new law. The big challenge for us really probably may not necessarily be the absence of good laws. What this amendment has done is that it's improved the electoral system in letters, but we now have to deal with the mindset of the politicians. We have to deal with the mindset of the stakeholders. We have to begin to run broader advocacy in terms of understanding what the impact of these changes that has happened in our electoral process, what it will mean. Having been around the electoral environment for a while, I've always thought that the big challenge will be immediately you make a new law, the politicians go back to the laboratory, and what we find is that it's not to see how they can be part of that conversation. Rather, they work more in terms of how to subvert the process. So we will need to begin to think, now that we have criminalized voter identity theft, meaning that people can no longer carry more than 1, 2, 3 voters card like we have seen. We have a situation now where there are different processes through which the identity of a voter can be worked out, and if you are not, then you are now committing a criminal offense. We have a situation now where we can review returns made by electoral officials. Unlike what it was in the past, once they make a return, the politicians will tell you to go to court and then sort yourself out there. But now there's a possibility that that can be reviewed. And if the electoral official is found wanting, has contravened any part of those laws, he can be prosecuted and sanctions meted out. So the excitement that we have need to be tempered. It has to be tempered because if you study the environment very well, you will find out that when we brought the smart card reader, the thinking was that it was going to be a game changer. But what we saw in the field was a rather, in many places, community collusion with politically exposed persons to subvert that innovation. So I am more worried now that, yes, we have a good law, but what do we do with the amending the mindset of the operators, the stakeholders? That for me is the way to go right now.
Question is why you're cautious, and let's put it to the senator. You're a member of the political class, the political elite, and you just heard express reservations.
Well,
yes, we have amended the law. Have we amended the mindset of the politicians and the players?
Well, that's not an easy task, but as everyone has mentioned that some politicians have gone to the laboratory to see the best way they could fast track or take away or be able to rig the elections in such a way. But for us, we also went to the laboratory and did all our research and found out how people are doing, how politicians are doing rigging during the elections, and in what way they are spoiling the correct result and putting up purported result for election, or even putting electoral officer under duress or to announce result. All those things were covered in the Electoral Act. Punishments were there. And then we also talk about the issue of on the day of the election, you are not supposed to carry more than your own card. You find that in those days, you can see one person with about 200 cards and just dashing out to people to go on board, and then making connivance with the electoral officers to just accept any person with a card and then vote. So all those issues, we have been in politics for some time. Most of our members of the committee have gone into so many elections, and they have found ways of which we can be able to detect those areas of corruption or areas of manipulated results, and then we detect those and pick it up, and we put punishment for that. Even based after this, we are also enacting an electoral offences commission, because INEC cannot be able to handle all these litigations of electoral offences and so. So this electoral commission, when it comes up, is going to deal with election offences, and people will be punished. And if you find that many people are found wanted and they are punished, it means in the future people may not be able to commit some kind of mistakes. So we are aware of these areas of people where they can do cheating during elections, and we try to address those areas. And I think that's why Nigerians are saying, yes, this Electoral Act, we put the best we can in it, and we expect that the law can be executed properly. But in the event anybody fails to do so, it means there is stipulated punishment for that purpose. And then for any officer that's found wanting, and the INEC itself or the party or the government or the judge found that person wanting, he must be dealt with seriously, because we are really serious into this business. We really want elected people to be declared as elected people. Not that anybody either could be declared by right results from the back door and so on. So definitely we wanted, if you are elected and you feel that you are really elected by the people, it means you serve well for the people. But if you feel that you bought your way through to become a candidate or an elected person, it means you may have to recover the amount of money you put in. If you spend 1 billion, it means you want to recover 8 billion. And for a position you are in, you take 8 billion, it means total corruption. That's removing the taxpayers' money, and that's unfair. That's not good enough to have a good leader like that. So I believe that's why we have to go into the same laboratory, but with a different motive.
Okay. All right. We have a number of reports, and we'll start with the very first one from Lagos. This one is by Kemi Adebisi.
Anxiously, Nigerians waited for the passage of the new electoral bill amended into law. Now the wait is over, and Nigerians can now breathe a sigh of relief as President Muhammadu Buhari on February 25th, 2022 assented to the bill, passing it into law.
There are salient and praiseworthy provisions that could positively revolutionize elections in Nigeria through the introduction of new technological innovations.
With this improved act, which stipulates that the electoral umpire must be funded at least a year before the election, Political parties can conduct their primaries and submit the list of candidates at least 180 days before the general elections. Parties can choose candidates through direct, indirect, or consensus mode. INEC, leveraging on improved technology both in electioneering process and results transmission, while making provision for people with disability, amongst others. Stakeholders say the new act will set a new tone for the nation's democracy.
There won't be anybody claiming that somebody was forced to declare him or her under duress in an election. So INEC now have the power to review such situation on the day of election, and even the electronic transmission of results is a welcome development.
A very good omen for the growth of democracy in our country. The Electoral Act is one act that has suffered a lot of setback, and for us it is a triumph of democracy and a triumph for the people of Nigeria.
Clause 84, subsection 12 of the new act is of major interest to many Nigerians, as it specifies that anyone holding a political office, either as a minister, commissioner, or special advisor, must relinquish the position before they can be eligible to participate in the electoral process, either as a candidate or as a delegate.
To make the ruling government to become focused, to be able to, because they still have some months to go. That you are going to contest election or you are going to vibe does not mean that the government should close. So it will also enable them to be focused and finish the agenda of the party.
Just as parties towards civil society organizations and Nigerians at large have continued to commend the passage of the Electoral Act 2022 into law, they are optimistic that it will not only guide the conduct of the 2023 general election, but also ensure a smooth electioneering process.
We have another report. Let's see this one from Kaduna.
2022 Electoral Act, as amended and assented by President Muhammadu Buhari, has led to rest some contention among politicians.
We believe it's going to turn around the political dispensation in Nigeria that will enhance democracy. It will bring about the height, the values and norms of democracy in this country.
The Act addresses a host of issues intended to consolidate the gains of democracy in the country, especially Clause 84, which stipulates that no political office holder can be a delegate or contest any position without first resigning from his or her appointment.
If it covers each and everyone that occupied a political office, I think it could go a long way in addressing some of our problems and crises.
It is not too healthy for a government appointee to also become a delegate. That amendment is in order.
Other sections of the amended Electoral Act that have received the support of stakeholders are Clause 29, which stipulates that parties must conduct primaries 180 days to the general election, Clause 50, allowing electronic transmission of results, and Clause 54, making provision for people with disabilities.
This issue of electronic voting, I think it can help, but are we right for it? Given the context in Nigeria, where we have so many other challenges grappling with the issue of network, isn't it? Issue of electricity has become a serious problem.
There should have been room for independent candidacy where a person can come out and contest, not under any political party, but on his own integrity.
Despite the various issues raised since the bill metamorphosed into an act, stakeholders are unanimous that all hands must be on deck by all, especially political actors, to ensure free, fair, and credible elections next year.
Well, let's begin to look at some of the issues that were raised in those reports. Dr. Kayode Ajulo, yes, Nigerians have celebrated this new law, but then there are still some suggestions coming through, and let's look at what some issues, the issues that some people are raising about it. For you, what are those things that you see as likely to attract a second look?
One of the things that I believe that we attract second look is this controversy, or maybe I should look a better word, on this issue of electronic transfer of votes, that collation. I think there will be some explanation to be made. I say this against the fact that till now, INEC is optional. Optional in the sense that all these Form EC series will still be used for the election, and if the Forms EC series should be used for the election, which is manual of all those putting all those forms down, then how come the collation of results, particularly when it comes to electronic transfer, how would that be able to be? Particularly when we look at against the background of several courts' decision in which the courts still believe that it is more or less a mere guidelines that may be used or may not be used. And like I said, we cannot be talking of electronic transfer of votes. At the same time, when it comes to prove such votes, you will still need all those form series. That is the one that is recorded manually. That is registrar. So as it is, the controversy about which proper procedure to use, either the electronic transfer and the manual of really putting it down, that one I believe there will be some issue there. And then finally, this issue of Section 84.12, of which where as at now the political appointee are being taken away from having anything to do with either delegates in party primaries or anywhere votes or to be done in political party, vis-a-vis to present themselves to be voted for as candidate in party primaries or congresses. I think just this evening, I received the news that the president has written to the president of the Senate, asking that provision has to be reviewed. I think this one will really generate a lot of controversy. So most of us, we have a different view to it. My view is quite totally different, particularly when some people even believe that it negates the spirit of the Constitution, where the Constitution specifically mentioned the numbers of days of which political appointee should resign if they are going to partake in an election. Whereas my interpretation to that may be different, because the one the Constitution is focusing on is general election, but here we're talking of party primaries, internal party affairs. And that is why when you check Section 228 of the Constitution, this section empowers the National Assembly to ensure a way to regulate political party, particularly when it ensured internal democracy. And if the National Assembly can come today to say one of the ways to regulate political party and to ensure internal democracy is to ensure that no political appointee should be a delegate in an election and should not be a political appointee and be presenting this form for election. I think that one is fair enough. At least we know what has happened. Most of the governors have turned that issue of electoral colleges, those that voted, they've turned it to their personal fiefdom because they are the one making the appointment. But with this, I think there's some sanity. I believe with that, we will have this sanity.
Right. Well, what are your thoughts on that? All right. We've just we're looking at some of those parts, some of those issues that have been raised with regard to the new law, which some people, and then including the president who has made a request to the National Assembly, think there should be a second look at some provisions. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that every amendment is intending to cure a certain misdemeanor, and in this particular case, it's the abuse of office for personal gain, which Transparency International refers to as corruption. So what we see majorly is that people who holds those appointments crowd out other competitors in internal party elections. And those who are shortchanged by that are the ones who are trying to ensure that there is some kind of evenness, or what we refer to as level playing ground. For me, and for the thinking is that it's important that at every level, whether at the party level or at the general election, we must work to create level playing ground. Because in a competition, election is a competitive enterprise. Any election is a competitive enterprise. If there is a situation in which somebody already has an advantage over a competitor, then it's no longer a fair competition. So our thinking is that those who are elected, who also use their position, to have advantage, should relinquish those advantages if they want to present themselves. So you cannot be asking some other person to do something when you yourself enjoy privileges that create unevenness. So my sense is that we should extend, the National Assembly should broaden that to mean that if you are a senator or you are a governor and you want to contest election, whether in the party, you should resign. Because it is not compulsory for you to present yourself for election. If you desire that, you should be able to also present yourself. So this argument that, one is elected, the other one is appointed, the truth is that the appointer fits the appointee. It is the appointer who privileges the appointee. So if you are going to use private jet, for instance, if a political appointee is going to use private jet from public purse, it is his appointer that gives him that privilege. So he that possesses the whole of that privilege will stay in office, use those privileges, and then tell another person to vacate office. So that contention will be strong, because the governors, like my friend Dr. Kayode has just said, the governors are in control of the political party administration and structure in their states. And they also have the privilege of appointing, in some states, we have seen people appoint 1,000 special advisors. 1,000 special advisors means that you have 1,000 delegates, if that law is allowed to stand. And so the contention now is a territorial control. People are struggling for territorial control. But Nigerian people are more interested in even process, level playing ground for everybody at whatever level, whether at the political party level or in the real elections, where governors will come to party meetings with retinue of policemen and soldiers. They do not come to that party meeting as members alone. They now come with influences and they can elbow out all those who don't agree with them at any particular time. So let's create a level playing ground. National Assembly should take a more reflective, contemplative look at that law in a way that guarantees this fairness, this inclusivity, and then at the end of the day, level playing ground for everybody.
We'll come to that, but let's deal with the aspect that has to do with the transmission, electronic transmission. That also has been controversial, and INEC has always insisted that it has the ability to do that. So let's go to Mr. Festus Okoye. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, there are so many positives arising from this particular act. If you look at the act critically, you will see that there are so many other issues that are fundamental, which unfortunately have been overshadowed by issues around the internal democratic issues in political parties. For instance, one of the critical issues in this particular bill relates to the issue of the submission of the list and personal particulars of nominated candidates at least 180 days before the conduct of election. What this does for the commission is that it enables the commission it enables the political parties also, and also enables the Nigerian people to have a complete resolution or partial resolution of issues arising from the conduct of party primaries, so that going into an election, the Nigerian people will know who the candidates are and who they are voting for. They will know what the ideological disposition of the candidates are. But the situation we had previously was a situation where pre-election matters will dovetail into a general election. A general election will be conducted, petitions will be filed, and pre-election matters will still be going on. So I think that the stretching of the timeline in Section 29 of the Act is very, very timely. Now, in relation to the issue of electronic transmission of results, I think that we must look at it as a compound package. Compound package in the sense that, one, if you look at what the Commission has been doing as of today, the Commission has been uploading polling unit results into a result viewing portal. And what this has done for the Nigerian people is that some people even create a spreadsheet. As the results are coming in, they are doing their own tabulation, so that it bridges that gap between the polling unit and the first level of collation, which has been a huge challenge to the Commission for some time now. Now, the second thing it has done is that it has created a sort of quality control in terms of the manually collated results, in which case, when the manually collated, the manual result gets to the first level of collation and there is a problem, then the Commission and the collation officer can now use the transmitted result together with the data from the smart card reader or from the BVAS or any other electronic device to check whether there has been any form of tampering and whether the result that has been transmitted is correct or not correct. And then the collation officer can recollate these results based on what has happened. So the issue of the Commission transmitting results of elections from anywhere does not even arise. We have made it very clear that we have uploaded polling unit results from places where you have to use human carrier to access. We have uploaded polling unit results from polling units that are almost in the high seas. And we have uploaded polling unit results from places that are even in conflict. So the issue of uploading polling unit results to a central result viewing portal or even transmitting of election results does not even arise. And so we are really excited about this law, and we are going to definitely continue to test run them and test run some of our processes as we move ahead. Then we also have
what you're saying. Yes, if I might just cut in here, what you're saying is that Nigerians who express concerns about poor internet facilities or non-existent internet facilities have nothing really to worry about. I mean, it's like you say, you've done pilot projects and you're quite certain that there are no challenges that are not insurmountable here.
From the elections we have conducted, for instance, we've conducted elections in Cross River, in Ogojayala Federal Constituency, and we uploaded polling unit results from there. We also conducted elections in Abuja State Constituency in Cross River. We did the same thing. We conducted elections in Akure North, Akure South Federal Constituency. We uploaded polling unit results from there. We conducted elections in Panshin State Constituency in Plateau State and also in Just North Basa Federal Constituency. We uploaded polling unit results from there. We also conducted election in Ngopala State Constituency of Imo State. We uploaded polling unit results. So we have uploaded polling unit results even from very difficult places. So Nigerians have nothing to worry about in terms of our capacity to transmit or upload polling unit results, because before we even came up with the idea of transmitting or uploading polling unit results, we had done some test runs and had done some pilots over a period of time, and we are sure and certain of our capacity to transmit results electronically. So Nigerians really have nothing to worry about in terms of our capacity and also in terms of our determination to do the right thing.
Hey, let's come to Senator Gaya now. There are other issues which Dr. Ajulo commented on, and Izewa also did, which says the National Assembly should take a second look at, particularly this controversial matter of appointees quitting before being part of the process?
The issue of the act, what we decided earlier, is that we had experience during primaries where political appointees, SAs and whatever, they are now part of the delegates. And when a state has about 1,000 delegates, official delegates, then the governor appoints another 1,000 SAs or political appointees as delegates. You find that there won't be fair and play and level ground for people who are on the other side. So we said the influence of these appointees will certainly not give the correct or the fair results to any candidate or aspirant going for election. We have seen that so many people have complained on that, and we said, well, let us address this matter. Let's put aside political appointees. Let's have the real delegates. Let them go on board. I know if a governor wants to put anybody, he can put whoever delegates are, but let the people feel fairness in the process. So we said, let's put this in to protect the persons or the candidate or aspirant looking for an election, and or who wants to go for election. But the issue of that really helps us by removing the political appointees. But now that the president has said, well, we are disemphasizing these people from voting, and we are not allowing the government to or the people to play their part. But we felt that we are looking at the proposal now brought by the president, and I'm sure the committee of these wise National Assembly members will do justice to it and then pass it. But second, the other issue of time lapse, we put about 180 days to the election. That were two things. As Professor Okoye, we call him Professor, because he did very well during our process of this Electoral Act amendment. We said the timing is very important. 6 months to the election, we will now make a candidate to go around his constituency to seek for votes. For example, I have 484 constituencies or wards in Kano. So if we would be only 1 month to the election, we become a candidate, it would be difficult for me to go around the 484 wards. And you end up that doing only rallies on few local governments at a time, and that means people don't know the person they are voting. So that will reduce money politics. But when you are not known and you really want to, you just put money and buy people to vote for you, which is unfair. So that's why we put that 180 days, so I can campaign for 6 months. On the later, one honorable member said he is not happy with this 180 days, because with 30 days he was happy. Every day he kills a cow. And then now he cannot kill 160 cows. So for everything that has advantages, it has disadvantages. But I believe that what we need to do is, all we are doing in the process of having a sound candidate, is that people can be comfortable and elect him into office for him to work for them. These are all the things why we are going into this, and because we have been in politics for many years. I have said I've been in politics since '82, and I've seen all forms of primaries, the direct primaries, indirect, and even the consensus. I benefited from direct primaries when I ran for governorship in Kano State in 1991. I was quite a young man, and I went around to all the villages, and I became popular with them. And people decided to say, let's pick this young man. And I was voting. There were people who were much, much richer than me and older than me at that time. But because I went around to the grassroots to meet the people decided to be with me. So that was one of the reasons why we say, let's go direct primaries. But everything has advantage and disadvantage. But as long as the merits is more than the demerits, it means you have succeeded.
How about suggestions like the one Ezenwa made?
Yeah.
That this should not just be for political appointees, it should also include elected officials. For instance, if a senator wants to run, then he should quit
like
and then go.
If a president wants to run, he should resign. Then you have a vacuum in the system. There will be no governor, no president. So amongst the elections, so who controls the system? It is by the constitution that an elected government should be passed to another elected government, and that's what's happened in the local governments and even in the states and at the federal. Jonathan was in office when we won election, and he transmitted the result as a president to the new president. So that is, you cannot allow that kind of bacon, and that's why political appointees, that one is different than elected officials, elected people of the government. So that may not apply.
Okay, well, as we progress with this discussion,
Thank you.
we would have, yes, Dr. Ajulo.
Explain we are getting the oath, because I believe that section 84:12 is to cure some defect, is to cure some abuse. Like what the distinguished senator said some minutes ago, you find a situation where the entire slot of the delegates is being taken by the governors that's deliberately appointed over 1,000 as a essay, and they will be there. And the truth must be told. The essence is that the National Assembly, that is the legislator, has the responsibility to guide the political party, to regulate them, as well as to ensure that we have free and fair, we have internet democracy that will not have issues. And I think it is fair to ask those people. I will not be one of those that will canvass that those who are elected, they are elected for certain terms and for certain reason, and pending the determination of their commission, they hold to continue to serve. But I did not, these are appointee, they are more like technocrats, and that is one thing we have to know. All the political appointee, this is what differentiates between the politician, called politician, and technocrats. Once you are appointed, you are not elected, you are technocrats. And I wonder sometimes, what is the business of the technocrat in being a delegate and to be voted for? Yes, if they want to be voted for, all that is needed to be do is to tender resignation of their commission, then acts exactly like politician. But to allow technocrats to have dealing with to now call themselves delegate, I believe what the National Assembly has done is perfect. And for those that are saying that it negates the spirit of the Constitution, that what they need to be reminded is that what the Constitution talked about 30 days within the election is general election. General election is different from when we have primaries, all those conventions, which is inter-party affairs, which I believe the National Assembly is qualified, is empowered, is constitutionally allowed to do. And I don't think we need to model this thing up, because many people have seen, many writers have seen, many people, particularly those that hold to know, saying that it negates the spirit of the Constitution. The Constitution never talks about technocrat political appointees to take part in party affairs. And I think that is what that section we are talking about has come to settle, and I believe they're in order.
All right, we'll take a short break here. When we return, we will start off with your phone calls, and there'll be more issues on the new electoral law. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly.
I am more than just an idea. I am alive, connected. I am part of an ecosystem, creating connections within an interactive and sustainable city. I am intentional about excellence, integrity, and efficiency. I am invested in building a sustainable future. I am committed to strategic partnerships and collaborations. I can be tough, and I can be tender. I take pride in delivering high standards. While there may be others, I am in a league of my own. I am more than just an idea. I am Bilal. Who are you?
The 157-kilometer Lagos-Ibadan Railway is the first double-track standard gauge railway to be built in West Africa. The Mobolaji Johnson train station is a masterpiece, an infrastructure that is gradually becoming an iconic building in Lagos State. The modern facilities put the station on a world map of train stations. Likewise, other new train stations across the country built to world-class standards. The train and its convenience is indeed an admirable effort, with commendations from Nigerians.
This is a station that we have to commend the federal government for putting a beautiful face, empowering us in Lagos State, not only in economic and political arena.
I can say that I'm really impressed with the infrastructures in place. Kudos to the Minister of Transportations. Kudos to the federal government.
Truly, good things are coming out of Nigeria, and the federal government is deserving of all the applause.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. Now we come to the segment where you can be part of the discussion in the studio. The phone numbers will be on your screen. You can call in and air your views, ask a question. However, we say this every Tuesday. If you call in and your call gets through, turn down the volume of your TV set. That's the way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And we always like to encourage you to go straight to the point. Do not bother about the greetings. Just go straight. A simple hello is okay. We cannot guarantee that if you go on with a long greeting, the connection will be there. We're not INEC that can guarantee that they'll be able to upload those results electronically. So we advise, don't waste time on greetings. Just go straight to the point. And whatever issues you raise, our guests here will be willing to address them. So welcome to this segment. We'll start off with our next report, which is coming from Awka.
The 2022 Electoral Act Amendment Bill, recently assented to by President Muhammadu Buhari, analysts say, holds a lot of promises for improving the election processes in Nigeria with a lasting legacy as it brings to an end the 12-year journey of the old law under which 3 general elections and many other isolated polls have been conducted.
It has placed the ball in the court of Nigerians, and the implication is that this clamor for rotation or for zoning shouldn't really be there anymore. The only caveat is that it is not always about law that builds a nation. Nations are built mainly by the attitude of being your brother's keeper.
There are all times adjustments of electoral principles are always done by improvement in electoral laws. And at each time, electoral laws mark a step ahead in the process. Of course, they fill new gaps. They fill gaps and then create new landmarks through which elections are made, brought closer to perfection.
With provisions for legislative backing for smart card readers and any other voter accreditation technology that INEC deploy, the campaign season to now start 150 days to the election day and end 24 hours before the election, as well as anyone holding a political office to relinquish the position before they can be eligible to participate in the electoral process.
Planning is key in electoral process. Releasing the funds a year to the election is key. That will enable the INEC to be able to use the resources judiciously to prepare for the election.
On the clause which gives political parties power to conduct a primary election to replace a candidate who died during an election, and that which makes provisions for people with disabilities and special needs. The respondents speak more.
Persons with disability will be able to communicate, because most times it's communication that is the problem. If the person is blind, they are supposed to use Braille in communicating, and those things, there were no provisions for that in the previous act.
Something similar to this happened in Kogi State, we all know. Unfortunately, the person that won the election was about to be declared in a few hours. Unfortunately, he died. So that was the reason why this clause was made to be contained in the Electoral Act to cover those provisions.
The general view is that the presidential assent to the Electoral Act is a landmark and the contents are superb. In Awka, Chinyere Okoye.
All right. Ezenwa Wagu, you saw that report, and I'd like us to take some time out with the provisions dealing with people with disabilities and special needs.
I think that a friend of mine has insisted that anytime we talk about free, fair, credible, we should always talk about inclusive. We should add inclusive to the process. And so I know that the disability community is excited about this new act, this new law, because it has taken away discretion on the part of the electoral management body to a situation in which they have to, through the shall and the inclusion of shall and this other issue. So every law has to always take into cognizance the need to drag in more people, because democracy is about participation. Democracy is about not leaving anyone behind. So that particular area is one place the National Assembly can have a bragging right that it has actually touched on a constituency that have been marginalized. Now the issue is become incumbent on the electoral management body to ensure that every person living with disability, whether it is the partially sighted or people who don't have fingers and people who can't walk. I hear the argument often that the facilities that the electoral management body uses are public facilities, and therefore they cannot do much in terms of making those places. But now we need to begin to work more closely with the owners of those public facilities that we use for elections and make them friendly for people living with disabilities. The way we situate the voting cubicles, the places where we situate them must be such that the thinking around them must be that it is accessible, it is friendly for those living with disabilities. So that is critical for people living with disabilities. And our representative in INEC, Festus Okoye, was talking very excitedly about the fact that they can cover the field when it comes to electronic transmission of results. I think we should be moderate in how we deify technology, because at the end of the day, the practical...
Well, we have a very first caller now. I would like to go straight and take this call coming in from Afolabi, who's phoning in from Ijebu-Ode. Afolabi, go ahead. Afolabi, are you with us?
I want to thank everyone that has on the issue, and it's one of the best things we can discuss in this particular time of Nigerian history. But my question is to Mr. Festus. I like the fact that we are trying to digitize our electoral system. So, but how do we integrate the use of, how do we make election comfortable without necessarily going to the polling center before we can conduct or before we can vote? So, are we looking at a situation whereby we can begin to vote remotely without necessarily going to the polling center? So when are we looking at that? I think that's exactly my question. Thank you very much.
All right. I'd like to assume that I guess he heard Afolabi and the question he raised.
That's Okoye. He asked Okoye.
Right. Okay. So we have the INEC commissioner. He will address that issue. Let's go over to Festus Okoye.
Republic of Nigeria to organize, undertake, and supervise elections. Now, the commission follows the law. As of today, the law is that every person who wants to register as a voter must register in a particular polling unit and must register personally and not by proxy. The law today is that any person who wants to vote in any election must be a registered voter, must not suffer any legal disability, and must go to a particular polling unit where his or her vote registration is domiciled to go and cast his or her vote. Now, there is no law as of today that enables the commission to enable people to vote or that enables people to vote through the internet or enables people to vote from the comfort of their homes. These are aspirational issues that the commission is also working on. So the commission is not resting on its laws. The commission is also trying out so many other models. And anytime the commission is comfortable with a particular model or with some of the new technologies or new innovations it's trying out, it will now approach the National Assembly for purposes of amending the electoral legal framework to bring that into being. But if the electoral legal framework is amended, the commission will definitely find ways and means of accommodating that particular law and also moving ahead with new scientific and technological developments. But as of today, the law is that every person intending to vote must approach a polling unit to cast his or her votes.
Back to the phones, we have Toby calling in from Elisha. Toby, go ahead. Toby from Elisha, are you with us? All right. That's a dropped call. Okay. Right, okay, well, just keep those phone calls coming through. Hopefully, we'll get a few more calls in. But let's return to the studio here, Senator. And this part has to deal with political parties and their conduct of primaries. Now, this has been a very contentious issue in Nigeria. Yeah. And easily you can say there's no party that is immune from all the controversies with regard to primaries.
Well, we understand that is part of our main problems in terms of electing a candidate. The party primaries is a major problem. Sometimes you find that the party itself from the headquarters will nominate a delegate, a team to go and supervise or conduct the primaries. And then, without you knowing, another team has been also set up on the party headquarters to go and support the other teams, if there are two teams in the state or two factions in the state. That's not fair, and that's really will not bring good democratic process. So we look at ways out. We said INEC, instead of May, we had INEC may supervise, but we say now INEC shall supervise the results of the content of the primaries. At least that can bring a little bit of more sanity into it, and that the report should be compiled properly, and then that report should be backed up by INEC. If there is any discrepancies or people have objection, it means only the aspirants who contested for that election could now write a petition against that results. So that is one of the ways we just trying to checkmate it. Instead of allowing the party to simply decide from the headquarters, this is our candidate, and there is no going back against that. But certainly, we wanted to make sure that Nigerians are given a chance to play their card well in becoming candidates of political party and being supported by the people. That's one of the issues why we look at the best way we could now checkmate the issue of this, how they handle their primaries at all by political parties.
Okay. Back to the phones. Buba is calling in from Kaduna. Hello, Buba. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, Senator.
Buba calling from Kaduna. Go ahead.
Yeah, my one question has to do with is of the wiki to today's INEC. Is there any provision?
All right, it's one of those nights. We'll keep trying. We'll work those phones. Hopefully, we'll get those calls coming through. Moving on, let's go to Izinwa at this point. And is Buba back online? No, he's not. Okay, so let's move on to Izinwa Wagu. New law has set out to do. Will this now be the platform where we'll see primaries that are less contentious that we have seen all over?
We will not see less contentious primaries. It's still a work in progress because you have to first deal with internal party democracy because that's where the big challenge is. Who controls the parties? Are these political parties run by members of the political parties? Who is paying party dues? Who attends the convention on his own? If you are going to have to attend the congress of a political party and there is a big pocket or a politically exposed person who is paying your way to the congress, provides accommodation, feeding, transportation, and the rest of them, the control of those political parties manifests themselves eventually in the things that we see eventually in the primaries. In some states, you'll be so shocked that delegates are paid as much as $1 million naira, $500,000 to cast their votes. And then at that level, there is no law that can legislate out this kind of corruption that we see internally. Who is the one who has the money to do this? So we need to have broader conversations about control, structure, administration of our political parties in a way that guarantees that people who belong to those political parties can truly be stakeholders in that political party. That for me is one area of conversation that the Lord does not completely take care of. And you see, the distinguished Senator Gaya referred to the kind of play that you see where the political party sends different actors to go and observe, to go and conduct primaries in different states where they have primaries, and then you bring two results, and then money is eventually then used to decide which one is authentic, which one is the authentic primary that has been conducted. So we need to be able to have conversations in terms of what kind of political party administration, structure, and administration are we going to have? How do people become members of political parties? What guarantees them? Are there privileged members? If you're a privileged member of a political party, what privileges you? Is it the donations that you make, the contributions that you make, or the fact, how do you even become this statutory delegate that you now sit down and you are worshipped like a shrine? You now decide who gets what and when. So all that conversation will happen for us to be able to get less rancorous political party. The big challenge is never whether it is direct or indirect or consensus. It has more to do with the actors, the people playing in these different forms of leadership recruitment within the political parties. And that conversation needs to happen within political parties, and civil society, donors, the media, we need to pay much more attention to our political parties. We give the impression that it is their internal affairs, but at the end of the day, what they throw out, the quality of people they throw out, has something and relationship with the quality of governance that we get. We discuss INEC, we oversight INEC, we engage INEC, we engage security agencies. We are not paying as much attention. Indeed, I have made the point that we over-respect the politicians, their political parties, and their candidates, and we don't engage them in such a way that can produce the kind of outcomes that we're looking for.
All right, thanks, Ezewa. Let's get back to the phones. We have another caller. Levy's calling on. Hello, go ahead. Let's hear you.
Like they are ruling Nigerians. The other time they say direct primary is the best way of selecting people. On the while on the it, now and now again they are saying they are giving options. And in my candid opinion, the direct primary is the best primary ever. And at the end of it, they brought back this thing, and they are even telling Nigerians again that best can never be an enemy of perfect. Whom are they deceiving? And again, my second question goes this way. Now, you say only the statutory delegates will be conducting elections. Does that also include the ministers? Because they are also appointees. Thank you.
All right. Well, Senator.
Yes, but maybe I may come in on this question. Thank you for asking this enlightened Nigerians on some areas where you need clarification. Well, on the issue of direct primaries and indirect, the decision of the Senate whether we go or the National Assembly will go for direct primaries, which for our own opinion, we believe is the best. But on the other turn, we're being undemocratic. We're only boxing the whole party to one choice, and that's undemocratic. And that's why we wanted to be more democratic, and then we open up for the other options. But you find that we even put a condition on the consensus candidate, because we don't allow elders or any other person, any group, to say this candidate is on consensus, and then the other contestant with this guy who they said is the candidate, or the person that says the candidate, are not being contacted. So we said that if there is consensus candidate, all the other aspirants must sign endorsing the candidate that they have agreed as consensus candidate. That's putting a condition, and that's good enough to make sure that yes, there is still a level playground for everybody. For example, like when you talk one candidate A, or aspirant number 1 was chosen, number 2 accepted, number 3 did not accept, then it means the whole thing is validated. That means it cannot be functional, and we cannot accept the consensus candidate. So that one is a check and balance. On the end of direct primaries, we know that it's open, and people are INEC shall monitor the election. And the indirect primaries also is a group of people, a small number of delegates to vote for a position, either governor or senator or house or state assembly or even president. Those things we said INEC must monitor those elections, and we said we should remove political appointees into that in order to allow that the delegates too should be allowed themselves to vote a person that they wanted. So we took up all these issues, and there is no decision in life that you make and it will be perfect. Everything you do, it has the merits and then the demerits. But when the merits are more, it means that is an acceptable decision. Because even our vote in the Senate is not 100%. But when we cross 85 or 73, we find that we have that thing is taken, even if you're against it. So our decisions are not
so he says,
100%.
well, the other side of it, he says, well, ministers too.
Yeah.
Right,
well, with ministers, they're also political
appointees. So they're political appointees. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Now, back to the phone lines. James calling in from Makudi. Hello, James. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, James, we're listening.
Okay. I greet you, the presenter, and I must also give respect to Senator Gaya. They have done a very wonderful job. We, the Nigerians, I just want to commend the National Assembly, the President for assenting to the bill. We are very grateful with the General Electorate. Actually, the Senate has, in fact, this present National Assembly have done a very wonderful job. Nigerians are very happy. And to the issue that is giving more heat to Nigerians, more about the act. Is it Act or Clause 84 and Section 12? Yeah. That is the heat now. I don't see anything bad about all those clauses. They are there to give Nigerians what they want. There's no need writing back to the Senate that should be deleted. No, there's no need for that. If you are a political appointee and you want to participate in those in the convention or the congresses, better resign if you want to participate. That's just no need. Just withdraw from your appointment and go for that. If you want to contest, withdraw and go. There's no bad about there's nothing bad about that. If you feel your position is still important to you, then you relinquish the delegate or Congress issue. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much, James. Well, back here in the studio, another aspect we'd like to look at under this new law is the fact that, yes, it's the matter of results being declared under duress. Do we still have Mr. Festus Okoye with us here? If we do, now this was one thing that created a lot of concern in the past. Results are declared and somebody comes up and say, look, this result was declared under duress.
Yes, the collation officers are appointed by the Independent National Electoral Commission. They work in accordance with the dictates and directions of the Independent National Electoral Commission. But under the former law, the law that has been repealed, the decision of a collation officer and a returning officer relating to the declaration of results and the making of a return is final, all subject to review by a properly constituted court of law. And we felt that that was not the right thing to do, and that was not proper. So we went before the Senate or the National Assembly to canvass that since we appoint collation officers and returning officers, when they make a declaration that is not made willingly, that is not made voluntarily, that is made under conditions that are not conducive, that we should have the right to review those decisions. And that when decisions and declarations are made that are not in conformity and in consonance with the law, that we should have the right to take a second look at some of those declarations. And I'll give you an example. For instance, we had election in one senatorial district. The election was still ongoing. And then the collation or returning officer made a return when elections were still ongoing, when the electoral officers were still out there in the field. In such instance, the commission is insisting that it should have the right to take a second look at what has been done. We have also had a situation where guns were put at the head of a collation and returning officers, and they were forced to make a declaration under duress. We insisted that we should have the right to have a second look at that.
Well,
the Senate has given us... Hello?
Yeah, in the Act, we gave in the Act we introduced these powers
by
the Commission, that they can be able to look at it and have a second decision than that, because it really happens in some places.
Oh, we'll return to that in a moment, but let's get this call from Ada, who's calling in from Jos. Hello, Ada. I guess you're a regular caller of this program.
Hello?
Hello, go ahead.
Okay. Hello? Hello?
We can hear you.
Ada calling from Jos Plateau State.
Yes, Ada, go ahead.
I commend President Buhari for assenting to the Electoral Act despite all the tension he created because of the delay. Anyway, he has left a legacy despite all odds. Now, the beavers and any other device has now been given legal backing. That's my joy in the whole issue. Then about this declaring results under duress. In fact, I'm so elated. I'm so happy about it. You know, that will take care of that. The politicians will not come and start putting a gun on the head of the Electoral Commission or whatever, whoever is supposed to return the results and make him declare it. So I think that one has been sorted out. Then the issue of this clause 84, subsection 12 or whatever, I don't think it should be an issue. It shouldn't be an issue in a functional democracy, as far as I'm concerned. The most effective way to deal with the mindset of the politicians, the electorate, even INEC staff, or any other stakeholder, is to punish anyone found wanting. Enforcement of laws helps to regulate people's behavior. That is what the problem we have in Nigeria. If we are able to implement these laws to the letter, we'll be able to sanitize the electoral process. Then I must say kudos to INEC. As soon as President Buhari assented to that particular act, they swung into action. The next day, they made the timetable public and adjusted it. So that means they are really ready, so to conduct the elections. Then I must also commend them about the BVAS. The election that was conducted in Jos recently, the by-election, the BVAS performed very, very well. So that means it's doable. Kudos to you, INEC. People should put in more effort. Make sure you read the BVAS we're going to use in future elections. But the elections in Nigeria will be less stressful. It's so stressful that it has to be somebody who has the liver to stand all those stress that can, participate in elections in Nigeria. Then for the fiscally challenged, I'm so happy it has now been put in law. Although.
Oh dear. Okay. It looks like we've lost a bit of that call, but yes, Ada has raised a number of issues, and interestingly, she says the beavers are working well now. Perhaps we should ask Mr. Festus Okoye, because there's always been this issue about the beavers. Would it be that now that you're dealing with a smaller, smaller numbers, then you can say, yes, the beavers are working well? Many people are thinking, when it comes to a general election where you're deploying all over the country, will these beavers work?
With the introduction of any new technology, definitely there are bound to be challenges and there are bound to be issues. We acknowledge the fact that during the FCT area council elections, that we had challenges with the beavers. We had challenges with the training of the ad hoc staff. But in relation to the by-elections that we just conducted, we made sure that some of the gray areas, some of the issues relating to the workings of the beavers were corrected. And we also trained the ad hoc staff very well. So you can see that in all the places where we conducted the elections, from Akure North and South Federal Constituency to Jos North Basa Federal Constituency to Ogoja Yala Federal Constituency, that there was no complaint whatsoever relating to the functionality of the beavers and also relating to the operations of the beavers. We believe that with all these test runs and with improvements in the technology, that when we get to the Ekiti and Osun governorship elections, that we are going to perfect it very well, so that when we get to the general election, there won't be any challenges with the beavers. So we're excited at the fact that the beavers is working and that Nigerians appreciate the work the beavers is doing.
Dr. Kayode Ajulo, let's come to you. A new law is in place. Many people have spoken about the provisions and how they will address so many of the issues here, but that's not all. That's not all about elections. There's still other matters which are extremely important in running elections and in running the electoral process. Can we say at this time that we're well on the path of making sure that every vote counts?
When you raise the issue that whether we make that every vote should count, yes, there are some aspects, some areas in that in our election, that's the management of election in Nigeria, in which I can say I've noticed that this law did not touch. Like, for example, the issue of diasporan votes. To date, the numbers of what comes from diasporans, that's those that Nigerian outside our shores, you find out that by now they should be able to have a say in our governance, and the best way to do that is to ensure that their vote counts. But unfortunately, I've gone through the entire document, that is the law. Nothing of such has been said about them. And by the time we look at how much they've been able to contribute economic-wise, and they have their people here, I think by now, particularly when we're talking electronic voting, there should be a provision for them. I think that is one of the things I believe we still need to look at. And secondly, though there are apart from the fact that the members of the commission, that is the staff and management, the law is for them to ensure that they sit right and to get it right in a way that they can be penalized in where they make some funny entry or to do some of their conduct is being checked. But the real electoral offenders, unfortunately, nothing is being said about them. You notice in Nigeria today, it is during the election there seems to be some sort of immunity that is given. I always believe that arson is always an arson. Assaults and all those stealing and co. But you find out that how many are they that have been dealt with to serve as a deterrent, particularly those electoral manipulators, those stealing, those that rigs. I believe in one way or the other, this act should be able to address some of this concern and to penalize them in such a way that it will serve as a deterrent. Yes, we've seen some places where they can be dealt with. We've even seen where now that it has been a law that all we need to do if we really want to confirm or to verify over voting is just to check the numbers of the total numbers of the accredited voters, and you check that with the vote that is declared. Once the number of accredited voter is less than the vote that is declared, that one has really shown over voting. Yes, these are the things that we can see that he's trying to use to ensure that vote counts and we get our election, we get it right.
How do you respond to these two areas he's talked about?
I agree with him in some areas, but we, on the issue of this overvoting they talk about, the issue of trying to correct the system. When we have this, what do you call reader, you find that one you protect the issue of overvoting. And when it comes to people really manipulating or creating offenses during the elections, I say we're having a bill coming out, which is very, very important, and that will safeguard this situation, is that the bill takes care of its Electoral Offences Commission. This commission is going to deal mainly with the litigations and of all those offenders during elections. So if people have been, as he said, if people have been punished for an offense, sadly there will be less people that will be committing the same offense because they see an example some people are punished. You find that in some cases a big man, a big politician will come and disrupt the election because that election is not favoring his party. For that kind of person, he will be arrested and be brought to book and be punished for that purpose. But in those days, during those elections, you find that people organize thugs to come and harass people at that polling station and turn them away from there. And at the end of it, they'll be filling the boxes by voting and then declare those results that is in the polling unit. But so it will be difficult now with this act, and we are working very hard on that act, and we bring it to Nigerians and for public hearing, and then definitely if that bill is passed and signed by the president, it means another milestone will be achieved by Mr. President in signing that bill. So that one is going to curtail actually of these election offenders.
Right. Now the diaspora voting, which he talked about.
The diaspora voting, which we discussed, that is issue of constitutional amendment, because that's why we did not introduce it in the Electoral Act unless the Constitution is being amended. And amending that point in the Constitution has to go all those processes, which we just started in the Senate and the House, to now be passed to all the states of the Federation for them to approve diaspora voting. And secondly, when we agree on diaspora voting, it means the INEC, the technology will have to be improved, because we are going to go into diaspora voting in all the states, all the countries in the world, because we do not want to allow any Nigerian outside Nigeria who he wants to vote not to be allowed to vote. So we start with African countries, the West African countries, Asian, Europe, and USA, and so on. So that's going to be a wide process, and then it will be expensive. That's why we say for now, let's allow Nigerians for at least for a while, in 4 years, let them come home and elect their leaders.
Okay.
So that's why we are still on this process. Unless the constitution has been amended, we cannot go to diaspora voting.
Right.
Well, I'd like you to chip in here, the question of diaspora voting, and of course, the other aspect that Dr. Ajula talked about. Hopefully, when you have this offences commission, they'd take the burden off INEC and then deal with all those who commit electoral offences.
See, there is a sense in which we celebrate a new institution as if it has the silver bullet to resolve the challenges that you face, when you also have some mechanisms to deal with these issues. There is, like Ajula said, if you steal ballot, if you steal the ballot, you have committed an offense, and there is a law already that criminalizes that. You have security agents at the polling unit, at the outer layer of the polling unit, and in the outskirts. Those security agents, let me not just use the police, security agents have a responsibility to maintain law and order and to also engage. So as we speak now, whether we have a new law or not, why is it difficult for security agents to prosecute electoral offenders? Because it is a mindset issue. How do we see crimes that are committed during election? We see them as we have a feeling that it's selection. So once people do anything, they are principals, and the people who send them will eventually come and say, this is election, let's see how we settle this matter and go. If that attitude persists, we will only have created a bureaucracy when we have an electoral offences commission. And it is the same Nigerians, the same security agents who will work in those institutions. So let's think more in terms of how do we begin to change our attitudes to people who commit crimes during election. What do we need to do to be able to bring these people to book? Even if it is naming and shaming. There was a time the National Human Rights Commission, had conducted and published the names of people who have been prosecuted and sentenced, for committing offenses. That is also naming and shaming is also a good deterrent. So for me, anytime I hear, Electoral Offences Commission, I advocate for it. I'm excited about it. But there is a bigger problem in terms of our general attitude to crimes committed during election. For diaspora voting, for me is, can we remove the legal constitutional obstacles and then begin to talk about the mechanics of how it can be done? We can't continue to pile up the challenges about diaspora voting, and then we will not join the children of the light in terms of bringing more of our citizens. I know that perhaps if you go to a place like Sudan, you may have over 5 million Nigerians. Maybe out of that, 1 million are undocumented, and all of that. So there are the mechanics of it may be a challenge, but we must work to continue to expand this democratic space by ensuring that we follow through some of, and I'm excited that the Senator Gaya and his colleagues have pushed through the independent candidacy issue, and these are expanding the democratic space, and that is the kind of thinking that we should continue to have. We need to pass that law, say, look, we can have diaspora voting. INEC can then say, right now, we can't have it, but this is, we begin to work towards it. Otherwise, we will stay in the next 20 years, majority of our citizens who are qualified to contribute and vote in an election will not do so. When Niger can come and vote in Kano and in Abuja, and Ghanaians will be doing that in Abuja and in Lagos, and we continue to explain away these things with all the challenges that goes with it. I think it's important that
well, as we begin to wind down, let's go back to Festus Okoye. And this You know your staff. INEC is ready, you're prepared, you say you've done so much and you're doing so much. And your job will be enhanced to that extent by the new law. However, there are certain circumstances which, in the long run, INEC may not have control over. I'm talking about the issue of ad hoc staff, your recruitment process of your ad hoc staff, and how you intend to guarantee that at last minute, some of these ad hoc staff don't hold you to ransom. You recruit me and train me, and at the end of the day, just a couple of hours to the election, ad hoc staff cuts out.
Well, that's a very, very valid concern. But what we do is that if, for instance, in an election, we need 12,000 ad hoc staff, we will go ahead and train 13,000 ad hoc staff so that at the time they are supposed to report to the super racks or to the registration area centers by 5 p.m. on a Friday before an election, we normally do a head count. And the moment we do a head count, if 2 or 3 have not reported, maybe they have had health challenge or one challenge or the other, we now take from the reserves and then replace them. And if on election day proper, somebody does not turn up, we have a mechanism of having the reserves that we can deploy quickly for purposes of replacing them. But what we are doing going forward towards the 2023 election is that we are going to move into the NYC camps and into the federal tertiary institutions to begin to train the ad hoc staff on the use of our new technologies, so that even if they finish their national youth service, or even if they finish from the university, we will have a reserve that we can call up at any time who already have knowledge of some of these new technologies. And as you know, the BVAS is the new enemy. It is the new enemy of election riggers. It's the new enemy of merchants of permanent voters' cards. So we anticipate a situation where violence will return to the polling units, because that is where the votes will take place. That is where the BVAS is. So violence may likely return to the polling units. So we are taking all these things on board, taking all these things into consideration in moving towards the 2023 elections. But I agree with Ezenwa that the political elite who go ahead to corrupt our electoral process should be named and shamed. There has been so much focus on the Independent National Electoral Commission. And because of that, we are changing, and we are also improving on our processes and our procedures. But it seems to me that there's some level of regression in terms of party organization and also in terms of internal democracy within political parties. And some of them are stuck in the old ways of doing things. But in this new commission, with this new technology and also with the new thinking that is going on within the commission, we believe that those who are stuck in the old ways of doing things, who want to corrupt the electoral process in order to come to power, need to do a rethink. Because those of them who have stacked permanent voters' cards thinking that they can use it in an election will be in a very bad market. And the commission has moved forward, and the Nigerian people are with the commission in relation to our new innovations and creative ways of conducting elections.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, who joined us via Zoom on this discussion that dealt mainly with the new electoral law, which many Nigerians are celebrating. And it will put a stop, at least, to so many untoward things that are happening in the process. We'd like to thank you very much for being part of this program, and we hope to see you again. It's always a pleasure to host you, to explain these things to us. Thank you so much, Mr. Festus Okoye. Thank you.
I really appreciate this privilege.
All right, Senators, we begin to wind down.
Yeah.
We started off at some point in time, Ezenwa said there has to be cautious optimism.
Yeah.
What are your closing thoughts?
Well, I sincerely agree with that, and for every law we make, is going to be, it's not a perfect thing, but it's something that we do based on the influence or the advice or the support by the Nigerians of making these laws. And I believe what we have, I'm happy that Nigerians, most Nigerians are happy with what we did in the National Assembly. We also want to thank our leadership of the National Assembly, the President of the Senate and the Speaker, and all other leaders, and then the President for signing the bill, and let's make the process of election move forward.
And he has asked you to take a second look at some portions.
Yeah, the other areas will look at it and see if it is possible we can pass that bill.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'd
like to thank you.
I thank you too, and also the media, the stations that have been asserting, and please informing Nigerians of what we are doing. Thank you for enlightening Nigerians.
All right. Dr. Kayode Ajulo, your closing comments in just a couple of minutes as we wind down.
What matters most is that for us to have a good governance, it has to start with the way we choose our leader. That is those that will drive the governance. And the essence of this new Electoral Act is to get things right, to regulate the way we choose our leaders. And as it is now, we have what we can use to do that. All we need to do is to study, to discuss it. That's why I'm so grateful and honored to be part of, to discuss it. And I believe we should continue to do that. Nigeria need to know the law, they need to know what regulates it, and with that, they will get our election right. And what we really need is just to have a free, fair, and credible election, and that credibility starts in getting the law right. And with that, things will be well with Nigeria. Thank you very much.
For your thoughts on this program, we thank you. Ezewa Wagu.
Well, I think that we in that point in our country where advocacy needs to be stronger. The thinking is that a lot of people understand election issues. We need to take advocacy to the judiciary because at the end of the day, their interpretative competence and capacity will also have a role to play in the outcomes that we get. We need to talk with security agencies. We need to bring this new law, unpack it, break it down so that people can understand it. And then finally for me, let us not continue to respect the politicians, their political parties and their candidates. We need to get into that place and have a big conversation with especially the dominant political parties. When you call for training, they don't think they are part of it, and they have closed down their own training centers where they usually train party officials in understanding these issues. So donors, civil society, the media, we need to push advocacy into the political parties for them to understand these new rules and guidelines and how it affects their conduct.
Thank you so very much, Ezewa. Always the cautious one. Yeah. And it's on this note we will...
one of our senators from his constituency, so you're representing him. Okay. So you praise the senators and the whole National Assembly members for doing their best.
All right, thank you so much. Well, we'll have to leave this conversation at this point, and big thank you to all our guests, Dr. Kabiru Gaya, Chairman of the Senate Committee on INEC, Dr. Kayode Ajulo, legal practitioner, Ezewa Wagu, Chairman Partners for Electoral Reform, and Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education, who joined us via Zoom. That's it. We'd like to thank you too for being part of the program. Next week we'll be back with NTA Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Continue to stay safe.